All right, so welcome to tonight's planning board meeting, July 9th, 2024. This meeting will be held via Zoom and streamed via NCTV on our YouTube channel. This is done in accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A 20, relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency. The public meeting of the Norfolk Planning Board will be physically closed to the public to avoid group congestion. Alternative public access has been provided. Details are located at the town's website at www.norfolk.ma.us. Tonight's meeting will be performed via roll call vote. We will also do an attendance. My name is Chris Montfort. I am the vice chair. We also have Melissa Mayo, Eric Diamond, our town planner, Richard McCarthy, and our administrative assistant, Betsy Fajol. All right, our first topic this evening will be a public hearing for 28 Union Street, special permit to install 3 new wireless telecommunication antennas.
Melissa, do you have that notice of hearing in front of you we can open the hearing?
Let me look.
If you don't have it, I can read it then.
I don't see it in the share. So yeah, that'd be great, Chris, if you don't mind.
No problem. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Mass GL Section 40A and the Norfolk zoning bylaw Section 310-6.13. Public hearing will be held on Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. via Zoom virtual meeting software. Meeting ID 844-7404-6211, relative to a special permit application for property located at 28 Union Street in Norfolk, Mass. The applicant, Dish Wireless LLC of Chelmsford, Mass, is proposing to install 3 new wireless telecommunication antennas on the water tower with associated equipment and a 5-foot by 7-foot equipment platform. The property, owned by the town of Norfolk and is located in the B1 district zoning district, reference assessors map 14, block 41, lots 27. The application and plans are available for public inspection on the town of Norfolk website or in the office of the Norfolk Planning Board during the hours of 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Okay. Rich, I don't know if you want to start with background now or if we want to just go straight into the motion for continuance.
No, I would, unfortunately, I would suggest you'll have to make a motion to continue it since we don't have 4 members to be able to.
So just for everyone's education, since this is a special permit, it requires 4 board members to vote on it. We only have 3 board members available right now on this call. It allows us to continue our standard meeting procedures, but it does not allow us to vote on special permit requests. And as such, we are going to look for a motion for continuance of this to our next planning board meeting. Betsy, you have the date?
Yep, it's Thursday, August 15th, and you can do that at 7 p.m.
So motion to continue the 28 Union Street special permit hearing to August
15th.
15th at 7 p.m.
So moved.
All right, we'll do a roll call vote. Melissa?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
And the vice chair, Chris Montfort, votes aye. So we will go ahead and continue that until our next meeting in August at 7 p.m. Apologies for anyone who joined specifically for that.
Sorry, Robin. We're down 2 members.
I wish I knew sooner. I missed my son's game, but that's okay.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I know we actually just found out that our chair wasn't able to come tonight. So
Okay, so the 15th at 7.
Yep.
Okay.
And, if we had known sooner, I definitely will let you know.
No problem. Thank you.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thanks.
All right, talk to you next month.
All right, see you on the 15th. That's a Thursday night, so they're doing a Thursday that
Okay,
week.
I might have to have someone cover for me. I work a night shift Thursday night, so okay.
Okay, and we actually have a draft decision already ready to go, so I'll send that along to you tomorrow, and you can take a look at that and see if you have any comments on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Betsy, for everything.
All right, Robin, have a good
All right.
night.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, our next appointment isn't until 7:15. So we're gonna go down to new business. Melissa, can you do the meeting minutes, please?
Sure. Start with 6:11, motion to approve the meeting minutes from the planning board, June 11th, 2024 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I have to abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
So we can't vote on that.
Okay, how about the
We have-
20th? Eric, you were there, right?
Motion to
Yeah.
continue, or we can just leave it at Richard?
Yeah, you don't have to move to continue. We'll just put it on for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's for 6:11. We're good for 6:20?
Okay. Motion to approve
I
the-
wasn't at 6:20, was I?
Oh, no.
Okay, well, never mind then.
Summertime fun. Have fun.
You'll have 3 sets of minutes to approve next meeting.
Awesome. All right, so Rich, do you have 5 minutes to go through the street acceptances for November?
Yes, I can tackle that, and I can give you an update on Shire as well.
Okay, I thought you might need more time for that one.
No, I can tackle that one first. So I did hear from Jim DeVille's Zane Engineers, who we hired to work on completing Shire Industrial Park. So he did get the existing condition survey back yesterday. He had a couple of comments to the surveyor, which they're will make some adjustments to that, and potentially we could have a more in-depth conversation at the August meeting, but I'll keep you posted in terms of the findings, where we're at, and so forth. So we'll it's just a quick update where we're at, but I think I'm hoping that August 15th we can have a little more of an in-depth discussion on it.
All right.
And then in terms of street acceptance, the one that's Ariana Lane is for sure the one that will be moving forward for the fall. We have to check on a couple other ones. We might, so if we have, it'd probably be a total of 3 actually. It would be Surrey Lane, Canterbury, and then Ariana Lane for the fall. And we'll be continuing to work through the older ones.
Okay, how many more do we have left after that, do you know?
No, Betsy, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head.
That's fine, no worries, I was just curious.
No, I have a short list of 8 that I was hoping to move through, but there's still quite a few to work on in the future.
Okay.
And I will say, I think, so MacArthur Ave was paved at the end of June. So that one, I don't anticipate that being ready to go for the fall. So I would imagine that would be for the spring to get that accepted, that extension at the end of Hunter Ave.
Okay. With 2 minutes left, do we want to go through Rob Zada for design review board rep?
That would be great. We'll do that.
So I know Rob does not seem to be on here. Do you want to give us a little bit of information, interest?
So Rob was actually, was currently, I think you met Rob last year, so he was filling an unexpired term, I think, for Bob Nicodemus. So this is just a renewal of his DRB appointment.
Got it. Okay, understood. All right, can I have a second to appoint Rob Zada for the design review board representative position?
Second.
All right, second. Or actually motion in a second, sorry.
Yeah, I thought that was your motion, so I seconded your motion.
All right, cool. So that's my motion. That's a second. We'll do roll call. Eric,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Chris votes aye. All right. 1 minute left.
As Betsy mentioned earlier, with Christian resigning, if anybody, I believe it's been posted, but if anybody that might be interested in being associate member of the planning board, they should certainly put it in their application.
Definitely will do. I had a couple people who've mentioned interest, but have kind of flittered away. So I'll reach out again.
Yeah, reach
Okay.
out, and then if not, then I can maybe put it out on the community page.
Good idea.
Well, that's too bad. Christian was so detail oriented.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just getting, I felt like he was just getting the hang of things, so.
Yeah.
A little bit too bad, so nice guy. Maybe
Yeah.
he'll be back.
Yeah.
All right. So with it being 7:15, I would love to bring Josh Fiala up from MAPC so that we can have our 12th Master Plan Steering Committee meeting.
Hey, Josh.
Good
Josh?
evening, everyone. Good to see you all. I'm joined by Andrea as well.
Hey,
Hey,
Andrea.
Andrea.
So yes, we have an update regarding the master plan tonight. Don't think we need to take too much of your time, but just to give you an update on the public comment period, which is now closed. So let me just share my screen. I have a brief presentation to walk through, and then we'll talk about the comments we've received as well. Again, Josh Fiala from MAPC. Great to be with you all again. I think this might be meeting number 13. I would have to check the counting, but we're either at 12 or 13.
I think I must have lost count.
So we did have our public comment period. So we just wanted to recap that. It's now closed. We have received some revisions and suggestions from both the board, from town planner, and also from the general public, and then have some thoughts about next steps for adopting the plan. And can have a public comment period in this meeting as well. If there's, I'm not sure, Rich, if there was a resident who wanted to make a comment this evening.
There is, yes.
All right, great. So we'll do that as well. Just again, thank you all for planning board members and steering committee members. I think Jen's on the call as well. So thank you for being a part of this process and guiding us throughout. I know it's growing long at this point, but we're almost there and happy to be wrapping it up. We've been supported, Andrea and I, by a great team back at the office, and thank them for all their efforts as well. So the public comment period, we did open that comment period, if you all recall, back at town meeting on May 15th. It ran for just over a month. We also had a session, we're in attendance at the farmers market, and we're there to both grow awareness of the plan, but also talk to people about the plan and accept comments there as well. The comment period closed on the 20th of June. It also had a survey, which was a part of the comment period as well. And we received comments in a variety of ways. And then this will likely be our final master plan committee meeting, but we're happy to come back if you need another one. But hopefully after this meeting, the next steps are pretty short, and that involves basically us integrating some final revisions, which we'll talk through. But then the main action that will be left is to adopt the plan. So that would be at a final meeting of the committee, but also is ultimately a planning board adoption is where it will land. Here are some images from the Norfolk Farmers Market. Great to be out on that lovely day and interact with residents of the town. Some new select board members and others. The kids grabbed some plans and were involved, and great to see the youth of Norfolk getting in the mix. So we had the plan available on the town's website. We had a printed executive summary, which we handed out at the farmers market, but then also left a bunch of copies at town hall. We received email comments through the survey that we had posted as well. I think at the farmers market also kind of noted a general sort of awareness of the plan. Many people had been aware that had been involved in the process previously, or had at least known that the process was something that existed. So that's always good to hear. And I think it had made its way into the community more generally. So in terms of what we received during the comment period, we had 27 survey responses. The survey, people could either provide comments on a certain chapter they were interested in or go through the whole thing. Some did both. We received 4 emails in addition to those survey responses with additional comments from residents who chose to comment that way. Overall, including the planning board comments and committee comments and town planner comments and all those residents' comments as well, we had about 54 specific comments that we received. We compiled all those in a document, which we also sent along to committee members, and that will be what we're basically moving on for these final revisions. And those revisions come in a variety of sort of categories, and I'll let Andrea walk us through that real quick.
Thanks, Josh. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you. Maybe if you want to stop sharing and I can share the other document that we had prepared.
Sure.
I think,
yeah,
thanks, Betsy.
I'll let you make you a co-host. There you go.
Excellent. So the other document that we had shared ahead of this meeting was a compilation of all of the comments. Hopefully you all had a chance to take a look at that for this evening's meeting. And hopefully, does this scale look okay? Can you see the text? Okay, you never know. Sometimes it like shows super tiny. So for tonight's meeting, we decided rather than to go through all of those individually, we kind of put them into 2 different buckets. So we had some comments that were kind of more editorial, catching little typos that we had missed as we were pulling the plan together, non-substantive changes, areas where we needed to have better definition or explanation around some of the strategies and concepts. So we've color coded the document that we had shared before. This light gray color is kind of those non-substantive comments that we can easily incorporate into the final plan. And we didn't think really required a lot of time spent using this time for discussion. There are some comments that we wanted to discuss during this meeting as we're coming at this tail end of the process to share, the comments that are more substantive that we've heard from the community through the comment period, and to get your feedback on how you would suggest that we may address these or not. So that's what is color coded here on the blue document. So if it works for the committee, we can take some time to just walk through these more substantive comments and get your feedback. And then Josh and I will take this feedback and make all of these changes to the plan as you direct us. Does that sound good for process? Perfect. So we'll just kind of go through these one by one. The first comment that we had gotten was most of these substantive comments are related to goals and strategies, which makes sense since that's where the meat of the plan is. The first comment that we had gotten was around historic and cultural goal number 5. Not sure whether this should be implemented by the land use or planning board. So this was something that we had called out in the action plan as helping to bring, more life to town center. And so we thought that it would be good to pose to you all, who might be the best person to help from the town perspective, usher through more cultural and community events. If not the land use or planning board, is there another kind of body or department at the town that we should maybe reflect as holding the torch for this implementation?
You know what? I've actually had a lot of various conversations about this. So Chris, if you don't mind, can I just jump in real quick?
Please.
So for the cultural and community events, there was for Freeman Kennedy this year, it was actually for all the Norfolk Public Schools, there was a cultural event that was a huge hit that everybody loved. And Gary, I don't know if Gary's actually still on the cultural council or not, but at the time he was, and I had chatted with him saying maybe for the next one, the school could work with the cultural council and we can make it more of a town-wide thing versus just a school thing, based on the feedback that we heard during the master plan process with, folks that don't have kids and also the seniors, they felt kind of out of the loop. And so we thought maybe they could combine forces and funding and create something that would be for the town. And Gary thought that was a good idea. I know he's not here, but you'll have to trust me. But no, he thought it was a good idea and they can work with, I think it was the PTO at the school. And then I was in another meeting the other day with Kate O'Brien, the assistant town administrator. And she also expressed an interest. I don't know who she thought would lead this, but she did mention some sort of community event. So it was definitely on her radar. I didn't have much time to chat with her about it. But so I think either for cultural council, maybe for the more, cultural focused events, and for more of like the town getting together, I'm not quite sure, but I know that Kate she mentioned wanting to get some folks together to do something. I'm just not sure of the details.
That's great. I think we can certainly reflect that in the plan better, and it makes sense to have that sit under cultural council and the assistant town administrator. Thanks.
I think the cultural council makes a ton of sense. I was also going to mention the recreation department as well as a possible source of this. They already do a great job, obviously, with the fireworks displays and the food trucks that we had this year, as well as the band. They do the concerts on the common. I think, there might be an opportunity for additional areas where they, kind of expand out from there. So yeah, that was the other add I'd have to that.
That sounds great. Wonderful. Well, we can easily reflect that in the plan and make that change. Any other thoughts on this one before we move on to the next one? All right. So the next was a suggestion to, I think, add a new strategy that establishes a student government day. I think this is a great idea, and we certainly would be happy to add this if the committee would like us to.
I
I
would
think
need to understand a little bit more.
Yeah,
Sure,
I think
I can
Rich,
add a little
yeah,
color to it if you want,
that'd be
for
great.
sure. So working previously before coming to Norfolk in Dedham, one of the things they had established with the Dedham High School was Student Government Day. And what it essentially was is the history department partnered with Town Hall, where history students would they would shadow for a day, whether it was the police, fire chief, town administrator, served in capacity as town clerk. They would act as board members. So some actually had to serve the capacity as a select board, planning board, and so forth. So it kind of gave them an opportunity to, I don't know if we can go this far with it, but they shadowed those different departments and boards and kind of interacted like they were in those positions for the day. And they learned more about those local government positions and roles. And then, of course, that one there, they actually had a student luncheon at the end. But I was thinking something along those lines. Maybe it's not exactly that, but certainly introduction at that level, I think, would be good for students going forward.
You mentioned high school, right?
It was high school, yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious how that we would work that with regards to like the Tri-County high school experience that we have. So would we only open it up to Norfolk students?
Uh, I don't know. You necessarily have to. I mean, I suppose maybe you want to do that, give them maybe first dibs, so to speak, because it would be Norfolk. But um, I don't know. I would kind of,
I like the idea. I think we just need to talk about
yeah.
figure out,
I know. I was thinking similarly. Of course, and maybe the one thing is that we could also add the King Philip Regionals, the uh, board on it too, or something like that. So, but that's kind of the principle of it. If you want it, now the other thing is you could, well, no, it still would be middle school would be King Philip. So, but I think it's worth giving consideration because I'm just, again, and the reason, well, so the one side note to that was that the assistant town manager that's there now, she attended when she went to Dedham High and ended up filling the role as the eventually working in local government in Dedham and as the assistant town manager
it's awesome.
today.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea, and you know what? It's a master plan, and we can say that we're going to plan to do this, and I think it would be a great ad.
Yeah, it would be great too. I mean, I know it's a little trickier for planning, but even if we just send an email over to the folks in the other KP towns just to let them know whenever we get around to, establishing this, or we could just reach out to them and say, we're doing it. It would be great if you guys could pitch in on this too, so that we could offer it to more students at KP.
Hmm. I like that idea. Yeah.
That sounds great. I think that this also fits nicely under community facilities, the chapter where you do talk about retention and just the public service workforce challenges. So I think that it would fit nicely with some of those other existing strategies. So we can make that change. So moving down, we had a couple of comments from residents through email. And so we can just walk through some of these. The first being green infrastructure. So this particular comment was around better communicating the benefits of green infrastructure and trying to incentivize green infrastructure and looking into composting. There were some existing strategies that talk about green infrastructure under the open space chapter and sustainability. But we could certainly, try to tailor that a little bit more to the education piece. And then also we could, call out specifically composting if the committee thinks that that would be good to add and try to clarify.
I think there's nothing wrong, obviously, with providing more education. I think that's definitely something that we can do either via our website or, even in the master plan, with regards to like rain treatment or water treatment rather. Regarding incentives, I feel like our bylaws already call out like, the requirements and ensuring that we're adhering to those standards to make sure that we're getting the infiltration that we require per lot. So I don't know that we necessarily want to incentivize further. The composting I think is interesting, and I think it's definitely something that we can kind of, start talking to Blair about at the DPW and see if there's a capability that they could start doing. I know, for certain things we are kind of composting, like at least um with regards to leaves and other debris from trees and cuttings like that. But I don't think we've expanded outside of that.
Maybe just specifically mentioning encouraging or going after any kind of grants that would allow for incentives to keep that as a possibility.
Yeah.
So we have a tree component there. We could look to expand that or find more funding to get more resources available.
Yeah, I think to your point, Eric, I think some towns have gone out and got grants for rain barrels. So I know there's sources for that as well. People want to use a lot of them.
And
That sounds good. Yep.
and the education and
Go.
I thought I was muted. The education in general sounds great. Yeah, this is very interesting. I didn't actually see this one earlier when I looked at this document, so I'm just thinking through it now. The composting, yeah, we kind of partially do that. So what in the other towns, Rich, for the rain barrels, what do people use that for? Do you know any examples?
But to water their flowers and their landscaped areas.
Which could be in Norfolk. I mean, we have, by July, my lawn is usually beige. So, because unless you have a well, you can't have the irrigation system. I mean, it seems like it would be a good thing to do in general, just to teach people about these things that they could be doing.
Yeah.
Because we know the aquifers are, not exactly going to last forever.
Yeah, definitely something we can partner with the gardening club on.
That sounds great. We're happy to make some adjustments to the strategies that kind of touch on this, but maybe strengthen them a bit so that it's clearer to address the comment.
100%.
Great. So the next comment was looking at the vision map and how we had split it into these different focus areas. And one of them was the preservation area. And in the plan, we kind of build the preservation area as a place where you don't have as much municipal investment and intervention, because the vision is talking about investing in town center and kind of these centers of growth where you want to concentrate and have more activity. And so this comment was picking up on the fact that there is maybe need for investment, but it's different in the preservation area, and mentioned the invasive plants issue, which we do mention in the plan, but we could strengthen a bit more. I think that the thing that I wanted to pose to you all is there something that we can do to better, I guess, clarify what is appropriate for the preservation area versus town center and some of the other spots where you may want to direct municipal funds in a different way? We're certainly happy to clarify about the invasive plant issue, but if there are other ways that we can better articulate the preservation intent.
You did mention about TDR, I think, in the plan, if I recall correctly, right?
Yep.
So would maybe just a little elaboration on that kind of help get the concept maybe some way? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. I mean,
Yeah, and maybe we could also, I think this comment was getting at that maybe the read was that, like, I think the DPW is not going to like continue to maintain. And so maybe we can just be clearer about the current services that are provided to those areas are going to stay and continue to improve. But it's more like we're not going to divert a big investment like a water sewer plant to those preservation areas. Like that's a big municipal investment that we want to target to town center. So maybe we can be more clear about the level of service today is not going to diminish or stop, but it's just that the town needs to be more strategic about where those larger investments are going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that
think that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think they make a
I think
good
we can.
around education as well. So again, another thing that we should probably do better about. We've got the newsletter, knotweed obviously is a big problem in Norfolk. Probably need to just be better about educating the town and the townsfolk about it. But with regards to what you're saying, yes, definitely need to be more prescriptive about our intent of the conservation land, and what we would expect from our government employees at DPW to provide from a service perspective.
Josh, are you going to add anything?
I was just going to say we can edit and workshop that sentence to. I feel like it was good that a resident pointed that out. I think that's not, the sentence doesn't necessarily communicate what we were intending, so I think we can make that a little stronger and clear.
Great. So the next one was about climate change and specifically the use of gas powered like lawn equipment. And this is something that we do see in other municipalities. They're moving away from having gas powered equipment. And so I don't think that we had a specific strategy to this point in the plan, but we wanted to raise it as a point for the committee to consider based on this comment. We can be more explicit about trying to phase out gas powered lawn equipment if that's something that folks feel would be good.
Yeah, that has actually come up even in my neighborhood, where there was a resident that wanted us all to band together and, say that we would go green with our equipment. The challenge is that most of the neighborhood has landscapers, and the landscapers don't use, any sort of environmentally friendly machinery. And even going to buy my snow blower, there was one that was electric, and we were like, oh, we should get this one. And the guy at the store was like, I have to have those in my store in order to get the other products, but I would not recommend it. It just doesn't work well. So I feel like it's a great idea. We should definitely do that. And the people that opt in, that's great. But it's so hard to find even, residential types of equipment that actually work well. that aren't gas powered right now. I feel like it's a great goal. I just don't know that we'd actually, I mean, you see landscaping companies all over the town. I just don't know. What would
And
they do?
I don't necessarily want to call out small business owners and make it harder for them to operate either, especially in this climate. Um, I think we can make mention that, this is top of mind and a point for us to review during the next master plan or in future planning board meetings, that it's something that we will consider, but I don't think the technology is where it needs to be yet to be sustainable for the homeowner or someone who's running a business.
Mm.
I think that makes sense. And we can certainly add that in and just clarify that it can be something that you investigate further. The next comment, it was a little longer and a lot of it was mostly, supportive of the plan. I think the point that we wanted to point out that shows up in a few comments after this is the yard waste collection. So a few folks mentioned wanting to have curbside yard waste collection and then also just curbside trash service. I don't think that we actually had anything too specific to those two services in the municipal service strategies. But if the committee feels like it should be called out since it's come up in the comments, and I think we did hear a little bit of that during the public engagement, we would be happy to add another strategy or to make sure that it's more explicit in a strategy that we already have that can be strengthened.
Yeah, I don't know that we're necessarily at the populace where it makes sense for us to start going down this path. It's very expensive. Even if we are to contract with a third party to manage this, those who feel very strongly can and do contract with a third party already for their individual properties. So I offer that as an opportunity. Not just that, but we have an amazing transfer station that is centrally located and very easy to gain access to. Very cheap as well, and serves the community really well. And I'd love to continue to support that until we get to a critical mass where it makes more sense for us to, provide those types of services.
That sounds great. And maybe we can just make it clear too in the plan to say that you have invested in the transfer center and that, it's something that you can continue to explore as residents bring it up, but at this point it's not maybe the right time.
Yeah.
Great. So then we had a few comments that were more just like non-substantive, wanting to get more information. So then we had a few comments come through the survey form that we had received. These comments were more just critical of the plan in a few different ways, not appreciating how the vision was worded, that maybe some of the terminology or the public comments that were, used throughout the plan to try to highlight what we were hearing through the engagement process were not representative. There were no real recommendations for what to change in the plan. So we just wanted to, give an opportunity for the committee to direct us to do anything to address some of these comments, but there wasn't a ton of like substantive that we could say, this comment tells us that we should change this particular strategy or goal in one way or another. So if you've had a chance to review these, happy to, take any feedback that we could help to make this more palatable to the particular comments that we received, but just wanted to leave it to the committee to share feedback.
Are we sure? Do we know? I mean, these are all in different categories, and it sounds like the same style of writing. Is this just one person that responded?
I think
to all
so.
of- Yeah, it's like that. And the spaces before the exclamation points.
Yeah.
I appreciate the fact that they took the time to read through the document and provide feedback. It's duly noted and much appreciated. I think we can continue though.
The next one, I think, again, we had a comment that spoke to just the challenge of having everyone get on the same page around a vision. And so that was a good comment that also led into questions about the implementation of the plan. This is one where we were able to actually see this person at the farmers market and shared how they can be involved in the implementation of the plan. So I don't know that there's, again, any substantive changes, but just wanted to leave space for the committee to have any thoughts based on this comment if necessary.
Yeah, the vision based on a small percentage of the town, that's tricky, right? I mean, we had over 1,100 people, but you know, we basically begged people to participate and had so many community meetings. So, you know, there's that it becomes the vision when only those people, the 1,100 people participate, unfortunately.
And I've got to say, MAPC, you did an amazing job with your reach out, attending meetings, attending farmers markets, doing you know, reach out in different environments, small business association group meetings, you know, you name it. I think we reached out in whatever way possible. I think we even sent flyers home in school backpacks at one point. So unfortunately, if we didn't reach you, you know, please let us know how better to reach you in the future, so that we can make sure that we're getting your opinion and your information. We have very little power to go knocking on doors and trying to get information. But I feel like we did a very strong attempt at trying to get as much information from the residents of Norfolk as possible. And we obviously did get this person's, you know, opinion. It just seems like it was a little bit too late.
And everyone that did provide comments, we have their contact information now, and we'll talk about this at the end, but we hope that we can bring more people along for the implementation. So even if maybe it is someone who found out late in the process, there's still a chance for them to be involved and shape kind of the next steps of implementation.
Yeah, I mean, especially when we categorize for the implementation plan of, you know, who owns what and who's going to be driving what, then, you know, maybe we'll need smaller teams to work together to execute the plan. So then in that way, that person could figure out, you know, like this topic sounds really interesting to me. Maybe I can join that meeting or group or whatever we end up having. So that would be nice.
Yeah, that would be a great way to implement the plan. So the next ones are a little bit more specific. So these came from, I think, planning board. So we can go through these one by one, and I think most of them are pretty straightforward. We just wanted to make sure that y'all were okay with making the changes. So the first was to amend a particular land use strategy that talks about 40B development and just being more explicit around the intent to work towards compliance with the subsidized housing inventory. So that seems like a pretty straightforward change that we can make to just clarify that particular strategy, if there aren't any issues with that.
I don't know that we're necessarily relying on Chapter 40B development to meet the affordable housing requirements. It's something that we have no choice in. So I'm not necessarily 100% on that wording. I think we could probably do something a little bit better there.
The proactive smart growth, though, I mean, I do actually kind of understand this one because the 40, we don't have a choice about 40Bs, but we do know recently, especially that developers are choosing to go the 40B route because of some of our town bylaws. And so, you know, so we had talked before about, you know, maybe we need to look at this, get some more data, present something at town meeting to say, here's how we can be more proactive, and here's what's preventing traditional growth or smart growth and pushing developers towards 40Bs who are already looking at traditional and realized it was going to be better for them financially to do 40B. So there's things we can do there to be more proactive, with the town's help, of course.
Yeah, I think we could connect this to the housing strategies, because the housing strategies are really how you're driving the addition of more affordable units in the town, and that will help you to reach your SHI goal that the state has set. So maybe we can work on the language a little bit, to your point, Chris, but then keep the proactive smart growth piece, Melissa.
Yes, 100%.
What if you ended right after the sentence after proactive smart growth planning strategies, period, reference housing development plan?
Yep, we can certainly do that.
you got a whole report on how to do this. Why don't we just point them to it?
Yep. That sounds great. We had a few different comments about the design review board and design guidelines. And so I think that there was just a question whether or not those had been finalized or not. And then once we have that information, we're happy to update that in the plan.
So they are, and they are on the website under the land use department.
I think that's my comment. And I had looked on the website and I saw that it said draft on it. So I wasn't sure if maybe we just had a final version and needed to update it. That was also, apparently May 8th or around then. So it's been a while now. Maybe you updated it.
Oh, yeah, actually, ironically, it was voted on May 8th of 21. So that was, yes, that's been addressed. I think
Perfect.
when we switched over the website, we lost it from the new to the old because it was on there before. But so it is there now.
Great. So we can make sure to reflect that in the land use chapter accordingly and that they have been adopted. I think that the other question was whether or not, so we note in the plan that Norfolk has adopted the stretch code, but then there's the specialized stretch code. And so I think that there is just maybe an opportunity to clarify whether the town is pursuing that or not, or clarify.
The town has not discussed pursuing what is it, the extended stretch code? No, it's not extended, but
The specialized.
specialized. No, it hasn't as of yet.
So we can, I think that we have that in the plan, so we can just make sure that it's clear in the language.
Okay.
That one is a tricky one. Just, we want development in the town. Stretch energy code, I think, is becoming more prevalent. So developers are getting used to it, builders are used to it. Slowly but surely they're getting there, but it does increase costs quite a bit. So that also creates, a cost increase for the buyers as well. Because no developer is just gonna, eat that cost. So just something to keep in mind, it is significantly more expensive than it used to be for a builder.
Yeah.
Or even homeowner that's doing a renovation.
Yeah. And I think we might talk about some of the different programs that can help offset the cost, but we'll make sure that we can kind of discuss that, like trade-offs and benefits.
Yeah, that would be great.
Great. I think the next comment was in relationship to economic development goal 5, where we had used the word equitable and just a recommendation to remove that word since it is a buzzword. And we agree, we don't like to use a lot of buzzwords in our plan. Sometimes we do get a little buzzword happy as planners, but we're happy to cut that if the committee would like us to.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, makes sense to me. Yeah, been in a lot of meetings where that word is not loved in town, so that makes sense.
All right. The next comment, so this is in relationship to economic development strategy 5.3 that's aimed at supporting entrepreneurs in town. It had called out specifically focusing on entrepreneurs from historically disadvantaged backgrounds because we know that they have historically not had as much access to opportunity with starting small businesses. So I think that we could clarify the intent of, directing resources specifically to those, but also making sure that those resources are available to all entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Great. And then the next one is kind of related in the same vein. So thinking about creating a business guide for businesses that's available in multilingual guide language guide. You can tell it's like almost 8 and my brain is not working. And so this person said, there might not be as much of a need for that, or what languages should we use? So we're happy to clarify the intent of this. I think it ties again to just recognizing that there is an increase in non-English speakers in our region, and that we should try to make documents accessible, but we can also maybe try to expand on what languages might be most useful in Norfolk based on the data that we have available, if that would be helpful.
100%. Yeah, I support that.
Yeah, I mean, a business guide in general would be amazing. And then if we could translate it to, the languages that we know we would need, that could work. I just know to translate documents is very expensive. But it could be worth it if we have, some folks that could benefit from it in town.
I mean, one of the things that we constantly hear is that we don't have enough businesses in town, and if this is something that we can do to support bringing more businesses to town, then there's a clear ROI in my mind.
Yeah, and we can also include, we have been doing a lot of work actually through our community engagement department with language access, and there are grants and different ways that you can help fund translation and even technical assistance from MAPC through our language access work. So we can include that as just another way to help implement this, recognizing it does get really costly and can be kind of difficult if you don't have the capacity in-house. So the next comments were around some transportation goals and strategies. One was asking about the rolling. This is a word that we like to add now since a lot more people are scooting around and using different forms of transportation. And so I think that we can clarify what roll means. I don't think it really, I looked at the strategy and it doesn't seem like there needs to be necessarily anything changed other than just to describe what rolling is, since it's a newer transportation term.
I like a rolling strategy. I think it sounds fun.
Yeah. I wish I was better at using the rolling things.
Scooters everywhere.
I know, they
Like
buzz
scooters.
around. The next one is, again, just to clarify, there was a strategy around looking at the townwide speed limits. And this is one where I think in this case, we don't mean to have one townwide speed limit, but just to work with your police and public works and different folks to actually evaluate whether the speed limits in town are what they should be. They don't need to all be the same, but just to, I think periodically you should look and see if they're what they should be based on traffic patterns.
Yeah, definitely good to clarify.
All
Something
right.
that has
Oh,
helped
yeah.
too is they have the solar signs now that they move around. Have you seen them, Chris?
Oh
Mhm.
God, yeah, I see them everywhere.
It helps me. It really helps me. I really like those signs when it's telling me, it's blinking at me because I'm going, 1 mile per hour of the speed limit. And I'm like, oh, right, it's 25, so I
They
think that
blink when
actually
you go
helps.
fast. They yell at you when you're going too fast. I've never seen that.
Yes. And sometimes on some of them, you get a smiley face if you go below the speed limit.
I
So
always get the smiley face.
oh, I don't always get the smiley face, but that's why it's helpful for people like me.
I'm with you, Melissa. I also get the too fast. So we can definitely do that and add that. The next one, so this was again just this was in relationship to a historic and cultural strategy that notes that oftentimes our historical preservation, historical research is focused on the dominant culture and not always looking at different under-recognized communities. And so this person is just saying, it's important to do that, but we should also continue to research, which we agree with. So I think this is just another one where we can clarify the intent is to not stop doing research of the dominant culture, but also to expand our research and historic preservation efforts to think about the whole history and story of Norfolk.
Yep.
All right, we made it through. Thank you for indulging us. We really wanted to take the time to go through these since, some were substantive and it's really helpful to get your feedback as we're coming in towards the end. So we can take all of the comments and thoughts that y'all shared, make changes to the plan as we're working on finalizing the final document, and then we'll share that revised version with you. So I think with that, if there are no other questions, I'll turn it back over to Josh.
No question. Just heartfelt gratitude to MAPC for collating all of the feedback, and especially to our citizens for putting the time to provide feedback on the plan. So really, really grateful for all of that information, and hoping we put together a product together that makes sense for the entire town and that everyone's really happy with.
Great. So we'll get that back to Rich and to you all, and then we can take a look at how to and when to adopt the plan officially. But we're very close, and we'll make these both typographic and more substantive changes. Rich, did we have a want to recognize a resident who wanted to make a comment?
Yes. Praneeth, did you want to?
Sure. Can you hear me? Hello? Good evening.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me? Are you not able to hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
No, I said sure. I did unmute myself. Still showing up. Yeah. So, good evening. Thank you for letting me join the meeting. I unfortunately could not, comment with the other avenues that were available, and so I'd reached out to Rich to see how I could share this comment, and he suggested that this would be one of the better meetings to do it at. Maybe I could have emailed this, but given the topic is kind of sensitive, I figured it's a lot easier for me to do it in person than put in a bunch of words in an email. So pardon me if I kind of, I'm going to try and collect my thoughts as brief as possible. There's a lot I can say about this, but I'm going to try and keep it succinct. I want to direct your attention to the planning documentation number 14, where it talks about the snapshot of Norfolk today. And under that, there is a small little paragraph, population by race. And I just want to read that out, and then I'll kind of share my comment. So it says Norfolk is a predominantly white community. In addition, the majority of Norfolk's non-white population is residing in the prisons, further underscoring that Norfolk is not a very diverse community. And then you have some stats, next to it. So given I have interacted, online with Josh, and I'm certainly familiar with many of the people at this meeting as well, and I understand a master plan document is a lot of work and a lot of people involved, and the intentions are always good. And given that this is a draft, document, I just wanted to kind of point out that language, when you read it, comes across as crude and insensitive. I understand this is not a political document, right? And this is not meant to be a political document. And that's why I said there's a lot of things I could say about this, but I'm going to try and, really hold myself, to be succinct. It doesn't read well for people who are non-European ancestry and heritage, or mixed ancestry and heritage, when you say that the town is all white and then everybody else, or the majority of non-whites are in the prison. I mean, it kind of comes across very crude, as I said. So I'm hoping you could kind of look at it again and keep it fact-based, because you don't want even the statistically small population to be invisible. This is a master plan document. My kids were born in Norfolk. I mean, this is literally their town. And this master plan document is going to be around for a while. I mean, I'm guessing, is it 10 years? I forget. But so you don't want my kids already reading this 5 years from now and seeing that kind of language. So I would request the planning board and Josh's team. You folks have done a fantastic job. I understand it's complicated, but I think we should stick to the facts and just point out whatever the percentages are, whether you want to call it, I don't want to get into the details of labeling. I mean, that is a whole other topic of how we still continue to use labels, even though our state pretends to be based on evidence and science. So, but that's a topic for another day. So if you could review that section and make the necessary changes so that it's more fact-based, and it talks about whether that's 1% African American, 2% Asian American, whatever it is. I think that would come across positively for the town of Norfolk. I mean, I've been here 16 plus years, Never had an issue. This is a wonderful town. It's a small community. I shared this with my neighbors as well, and pretty much everybody around me was shocked to kind of read that. But again, I mean, I'm hoping that this is just an oversight, and that you would possibly fix this.
I think it goes without saying that that's something that we'll revisit immediately. First and foremost, I do want to mention thanks for having the courage to bring that up, especially in a public forum just like this. And I'm actually slightly embarrassed that we didn't catch that earlier. I am also of minority descent. I'm Hispanic. My family came from Puerto Rico, and it's something I take great pride in. And I 100% understand the frustration that that could cause. So I think we're gonna do our best to reword it, and if possible, can we reach back out to you, have you review it, make sure that you're okay with the new terminology before we go public with it?
We could definitely. I have Praneeth's emails. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Perfect. Yeah, I think he froze. But just the same way that Praneeth is calling us out, I would hope that any citizen in Norfolk would do similar. We do take feedback, and we action it as long as it makes sense for us to. And something like that that's so glaringly obvious that we obviously all missed needs to be taken care of. And so Josh, Andrea, looking forward to seeing the next revision of that language there.
Yeah, we really appreciate this. Bring it to light and the courage that it takes to do that. I would say definitely a blind spot that we didn't catch. I think that it's the origins of that sentence are in the data that what we're trying to communicate is that the census data does include the prison populations as part of the town data. But that it was a very sort of indelicate way to communicate that, and we apologize for that, and we will fix that language in that section for sure.
Thank you.
And I don't know if Praneeth's going to get his connection back, but Rich, can you please make sure to reach out to Praneeth? Please have the board CC'd on that as well, just to make sure that he does understand that this is a priority for us, and that we will review new language and ask for his opinion on it when it's ready.
Sure, we can do that. Absolutely.
Thank you. Josh, I don't know if we have anything else left on the agenda for the master plan meeting.
No, the only other thing we wanted to highlight was the after adoption, which is so revisions and adoption, then the other big next step is to just think and talk about the formation of an implementation committee, which would be the sort of the life after this master plan committee putting the document together. So we will continue to, talk with Rich and game plan that out to make sure that you all feel set up to do that on a timeline that makes sense for you all, but that doesn't get lost, because that's a very important part of keeping this as a document which will not just sit on a shelf.
Awesome.
Great. So I think we're probably ready to shift back to the agenda with new business items.
All right, sounds good. Then Josh, Andrea, really appreciate the time today. Praneeth, I don't know if you can hear us. Thank you again. Appreciate it. And we will
If you can hear me.
we can. You're back. Sort of back.
Yes. Sorry, but I don't know what's going on. I seem to have a good connection, but it's very unstable. I don't know what's happening.
No worries, Praneeth.
Must
We
be the
mentioned that
browser-based
we are
Zoom.
we're going to revisit the language, and Rich is going to meet reach out to you via email again with the board CC'd. We thoroughly apologize for that oversight and really appreciate you being strong and bringing this to our attention. We hope to touch base with you soon as we have the new language.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. And really appreciate you calling that out. Thank you. All right. Do we have a next meeting or a next touch point set up for MAPC? Do we need to set one up?
Josh, I mean, what? I don't think so, right?
Do we want to coordinate via email?
When's the August meeting again for the planning board?
15th? August 15th.
Virtually 15th. It's a Thursday.
Yeah, let us regroup as a team, but we could try to see if we can work it out so that we can have the revised plan back to you all for that meeting.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you.
All right. So Rich, it looks like we are back to town planner updates.
Yes. So the first topic under planning, well, actually, I won't say first. I'm going to take it out of order. Sorry. Of the 111 Dedham Street, and then we'll go back to the fall town meeting amendments. Which 111 Dedham Street is C6 zone is for the fall town meeting, but can you enable the screen share, Betsy, for me, and then I'll.
So while you figure that out, did we get a finalized understanding of, is it a town vote? Is it a town vote and legislature vote? Where are we at with that?
So in terms of the deed restriction, I have not received the final answer on that. That is something that we need to get.
But the zoning is the first step that we need to take anyway.
Yeah, zoning is the first step. So we need to kind of work backwards, if you will, to get to the zoning ready for the fall town meeting. Let's see. So just kind of a recap, we had, if you recall, we had the wrap-up meeting on June 20th regarding the zoning analysis that with the recommendations. And from the June 20th meeting, and even prior to the June 20th meeting, we started to work towards some zoning bylaw amendments regarding, and again, this is former Southwood Hospital site. We're calling it 111 Dedham as we kind of slowly phase out, if you will, Southwood Hospital site. But I'll use that for a little bit, and then eventually, hopefully, it's we've turned the page to 111 Dedham Street. But so what before you tonight on your screen, we sent out a draft with Bill Buckley from GFI Partners, Josh and myself sat down and went through the zoning bylaw. As you know, as a recap, the C6 zoning district encompasses the former Southwood Hospital property site. So those are the properties for which is in the C6 zone. So the thought is by making the adjustments to the C6 zone, it only pertains to that particular area of town. One thing we did touch on briefly at the June meeting, which we've pretty much determined at this point, there is no zoning map adjustment needed. We can work within the boundaries that's called out today for the C6 zoning district. As you see before you on the screen, decided to kind of reflect the direction of what the district is intended to be, which is to have a light industrial and commercial. So we're proposing that we drop the residential from the district name. We've made just some changes before you in terms of the purpose section. We've added in terms of some sections in the middle in terms of what to be superseded, which is something that we want to talk a little bit about tonight. One is the parking requirements, and then the other pertains to design review. As I mentioned at the last meeting, we were consideration getting rid of the plan multi-lot development. That is the recommendation based on past experiences with it. It really hasn't worked out as probably originally intended in terms of crafting that zoning bylaw. And GFI Partners plans to, again, develop the property as industrial subdivision and then out parcels along Dedham Street as a commercial development, whereby they would propose to do industrial subdivision with some lots, and then again the front pieces would be for commercial development. So
one of the commercial uses that they had proposed was assisted living. Now,
yes,
does that fit within the light industrial commercial use, or does that have that dual kind of residential requirement?
so that technically good point is really the only residential that we're talking about within that district. And what I'll do is I'll go through this first, and then I'll share with you and go through the use table, which identifies uses that are in various states whereby they might be a no, they could be a special permit. In other districts that they would like to have consideration be added to the C6 zone. Again, there's a couple that proposing to get rid of. And then there's a proposal to add some new uses for which at this time are just under consideration for the C6 zone. If they do make sense to consider for really essentially the C1, I would say more likely the C1 off highway. That's something we consider. But for right now, we're kind of focused on this phase of it related to the C6.
Okay.
I'll go through the changes and then we'll come back to it. So just
With
scrolling.
regards to grammar or spelling, do you want that in a different format, or you want us to go through it now?
I think you can give it to us back separately. So, so what I will say is what I want to do is go through this, get you kind of familiarized with the intent of how we've organized the proposed changes, and then you can email us back with those in terms of grammar and so forth that you see to make adjustments. We will incorporate those changes and then turn this over to town council to take a look at, essentially really right now on the front end, and then provide that to Bob in the building department, Bullock, the building commissioner, to take a look at as well, to start digging into things. Because the big picture goal is to get this on the warrant for the town meeting in November, which the date will be November 12th. I just learned today will be the date of town meeting. The warrant, from which I understand, is going to be opening up next week, July 16th, and then it'll be closing out on September 5th.
Okay.
So as I said earlier, this is, if you see embedded with the strike throughs a lot, was that existing PMLD language that's proposing to be deleted, and then calls out the subdivision and the minimum size for the lots, which you can see there is 4 acres. Phase development is something that we're retaining and making some modifications to it within these proposed changes. Well, I'll hold on that for now. Another comment. Come back to it. I think this is pretty self-explanatory in terms of keeping it more broadly public, which can be the town as well in terms of water supply. And then these are some standards that we're keeping: local location drives and streets that are in there, street trees, buffer between the grass strips, existing trees. You can see here the building height is coming down significantly compared to the existing zoning. The existing zoning could go upwards to 100 feet. We're talking about 45 feet in height. If you recall, the building size footprint would be going up in this case to 250 as opposed to 50,000 square feet that we have today, by right below 50,000. Site lighting, we have a little provision on site lighting, and then we have a section that's open for filling it in terms of landscaping standards and then design standards. And I want to focus in a second at the moment really related to the design standards. So as you know, we do have the design review section of our bylaw, which does currently include this area, this district, the C6 district. So what we talked about is perhaps having their own design standards themselves within the C6 district, and they would not need to necessarily go through the design review process and the design review standards in the district, because some of those existing, and I can share if you want, just to the existing design review bylaw standards to read how they don't necessarily match up in terms of the building types that we're potentially contemplating here in the light industrial district, as opposed to what we would see in other areas in terms of building shape, design, and so forth. But that's open for discussion. It's just to clarify light industrial in terms of what it's abutting. We're adding trails in here because we do know this is the property includes the former rail bed where the Metacomet Greenway is proposed. I think I did tell you that we did get funded. I think I recall telling you that. So we did receive the grant funding for the Metacomet Greenway, which we'll be starting to work on later this year. What Bill Buckley did is took a look at the lot sizes under the existing zoning and matched it up with anticipated for the development plan for the C6 zone. So you can see in many instances here, we're talking about actually, the lot sizes jump up significantly, right? From 8,000 square feet to 15 acres. And so these will work with the development concept that you saw at the meeting on June 20th. If we want to go, Bill has that presentation. We want to look at that just for a reminder, if need be. Tonight we can do that. So again, sign section, we'll have to make an adjustment here in terms of identifying that district. Proposing make some adjustments to the parking provisions for shared parking. That's within this, again, within that district, the C6 district. Call your attention to E, which is something that is a parking requirement based on today's industry standards in terms of parking, which is identified as a more realistic parking requirement for light industrial uses, which is in terms of our bylaw today, less than what we would consider for light industrial. So this is another area whereby we could keep it here, or we could amend the parking section to put it in there. And same with the next provision down in terms of location of parking. So I'm going to pause here, and we can any comments from the board, we can talk about those right now.
Yeah, obviously a lot for us to kind of digest. I don't know, Melissa, Eric, if you've had time to go through the document that Rich has provided or not. I know I have not had the opportunity to go through it with a fine tooth comb. With regards to the comment around parking, I do want to be careful. I'm conscious that one parking statute doesn't necessarily cover all uses. I am curious as to the source of this industry best for light industrial. So if you can provide a citation for that or documentation, I'd appreciate it. Outside of that, I think, all of us, especially those not currently at the meeting, need a little more time to kind of go through this and formulate.
Well, yeah, you're right. So now we have, Chad wasn't able to make it tonight, and we know Gary. So yes. So this is really kind of first pass.
I think it's a great first pass. Absolutely. As I scroll through it, I am just questioning, like, how does this compare to the next comparable zone in our town, and what are the true deltas between those? I want to make sure that we're, being fair, obviously, to the developers, but at the same time not deviating too much from what we have already established as fair practice, right? Like, I want to make sure that we're not making habit of kowtowing to a developer because they're coming in and doing this amazing job, but being fair to the community, being fair to the town, and being fair to how we've done things. And if it makes sense, as you mentioned, for us to make changes more broadly, I'd rather that than to just carve out special areas where we're doing that and in for special situations because of the perception of what that could mean.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair point. I probably would to answer that question here would be some of this is actually a little more restrictive than the other zoning district, particularly around dimensionally required wise. Lot size is significantly larger.
Yep.
Coverage is less, so forth. So yeah, we can go through that and do a compare and contrast.
And so our ETA for town warrant, remind me, September?
So the warrant, so opens up July 16th and then closes on September 5th.
Right. So we've got to have this reviewed and voted on within our September meeting, essentially. And so we have to do advisory committee beforehand. And so really August, we have to do the bulk of this.
Yes, the bulk of it will be in August. If you remember, advisory would be after that. They don't want to, generally prefer to see you after the board's held the public hearing. But yes, yep, the bulk of this work would be more sleeve rolling at the August meeting.
Yeah, and then so we wouldn't have the public meeting until September. So we'd have to vote it in, accept it, and then we'd have to amend it if needed.
Correct. Yep.
All right.
And so
timelines, right?
Yeah. So and based on that timeline, the bulk of the work will be August 15th, submitted to the warrant. We were just discussing today, perhaps we'd have maybe the public hearing if you would like at the September meeting. So
Yep.
It gives you even earlier time to make some adjustments because we're much earlier and further away from town meeting in terms of November.
Right. I think that's a good target date personally.
Okay.
I'll defer to Chad obviously when he comes back, but
Yeah.
For the purposes of my opinion, that's what I feel strongly about.
Okay.
Eric, Melissa, any opinions?
No, I agree with you.
Nothing to add.
Okay. So I'm gonna switch over to the use table. And let's see. I see it might be a tech issue. Wonder why.
Oh, love these.
Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe I need to download out of Google so it doesn't. It's kind of odd, huh? I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. But so Melissa had a great idea, which I did the same thing. Was highlight the rows in terms of where changes are up for consideration. So the first one I think is pretty straightforward. Electric vehicle charging facilities. I think that, and the reason why we've talked about this a little bit when we met with Bill and Josh is that there will probably be a time when what we know as I would probably say maybe a gas station, if you will, becomes a electric charging station with faster charging, where somebody might do a quick charge and get goods like you would today at a gas convenience store. So the thought was to kind of think ahead for.
The concern is that that pegs us very specifically and will require updating. Let's say we go hydrogen or some other type of fuel. Maybe we just say alternative fuel station. I'm also getting tripped up on the word facilities.
Mhm.
I don't want people to confuse that with like, well, I've got electric vehicle charging facilities at my home. Is that wrong now because it says no in the zoning?
Rich, can
Yeah.
you zoom in?
Sure. Yep.
Well, that white space doesn't help.
Is that a little better?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, good point. So the answer, I don't know. Let me pause about that. This is really, we don't define it in terms of, well, first of all, we don't define it.
Right.
Um, so we certainly, the only other district that's allowed in is the B1 at the moment. Well, I got two options, or maybe more. I'm just thinking about it, but we could add, to your point, something about alternative fuel, so it captures other options.
Yeah.
Or we also could perhaps define this too, and do both. So
You're saying the whole line is new, but really
no, I should, sorry. The only thing new is at the end where C6 is, so the last column.
Okay.
So
So
this
all the
is our
highlights really should be not there.
yeah, I just highlighted and Melissa, did you highlight the whole row or just the one section?
Just the one. So I just highlighted the ones that were going to be a yes. I did not highlight all the changes, just so that we could see what what we were going to allow in that district. But looks like you highlighted basically all the changes.
Yeah.
Right now, it looks like the entire row is new.
So that what you see, electric vehicle recharging facilities, that's in our existing, well, we just adopted it. So it's not in the book, if you will. So are you looking in the book, Eric?
No, I'm just looking at what you've got on the screen, that they're all highlighted, like there's a change there, or there's something new, but really it's just the C6 sell.
Yeah, it's
No.
just a C6. So just a
Through
no
you,
to a yes.
through you, Mr. Chair, for just a point of clarification. So all of the changes are actually tracked, right? So there are no changes. I don't believe there's any changes in this, Richard, that aren't tracked changes, right?
Yes, yes.
Right.
I could well, I think if I download out of Google, you'll see the track changes. I don't know if that helps or not. I could do that.
You could see it.
That's
You
only
can see it
changes
over
we're
on the
adding
right.
yes to the last one, right? That's it.
Yeah, the only thing is this
Or it's crossed out.
correct. Yeah. Now in Google, this thing got truncated, but essentially we're again getting rid of the idea of this age restricted. So removing residential from that district. So that's why it's no everywhere else, and then would just change this from a yes to a no.
And so does that again play on the assisted living?
That's actually in a separate one. Oh, there it is on the screen.
Yeah, it's a separate one. We'll get to that one next.
By special permit. There we go. Okay.
Yeah. So there's really two things. Well, yeah, I'll call it two things, if you will. One is getting rid of the reference to PMLD because we're getting rid of the PMLD. And getting rid of it from the, well, taking it out of the ZBA and turning it to a planning board special permit. Which, as I'm looking at this, so generally from a permitting standpoint, I think that makes good sense from a permitting. You have your special permits lined up with your site plan approval, which will be going through the planning board here. Maybe we might want to change this one over here in the other district, the C4, I suppose, to planning board. Just give that food for thought.
So do it for both?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
guess
mean, it
it
doesn't
doesn't
make
really
sense
make
for them
sense.
to own one versus not both.
Yeah. So in this one, I would propose, I would have to edit what I was saying, everything only in the C6. This would be maybe exception where I would say, since we're here, might as well just change it.
Yeah. And that's we got more.
We have more.
Oh yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have a bunch more. I'll go through them a little bit. I can go faster if you like. I'll go faster. How's that? So again, there's some uses as we come down here that we find are no's, but they are allowed in other districts. They would like to have consideration to add those to the C6.
Hold on. Now
Okay.
you're going too fast.
Now I'm going too fast. Sorry.
Yeah. Commercial service. Go left. Go left.
Yeah. I think I'm going to download it out of.
You keep saying that, but you don't do it.
I'm doing it now.
You can just click on where it says open with Google Docs.
Open Google Docs.
It was on the top of the screen when you were sharing.
All right. Okay. Oh, jeepers. Okay. Well, how about that? That's pretty big now. That didn't do it. That didn't work out too well for me.
No, I like the other one better.
Yeah, why is it not? Well, actually, it's not. Well, that's not too bad, is it?
Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible. All right. Sorry about that. All right. Let me go do what I was going to do. Let's see. I think this.
What's the name of it? Oh, schedule of use.
Yeah. Let me see if I can.
I've got it pulled up.
Yeah, it still looks crappy, huh? Doesn't. Not a technical term.
Do we need to see all of the other columns or can we just hide them? So that we can see just the very left and very right.
So Rich, I would hate to
Um,
say this, but like if this was in an Excel sheet, we could easily just filter out on the ones that don't have any changes
mhm.
and collapse it. I mean, you could probably copy and paste it and easily do that, and then we can keep that top row just that way we know what zones we're looking at. But there's a lot in here, right? And again,
Yeah.
we're missing two key members. So I think we take some homework to review this.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I get it. Yes.
But I mean, at first glance, I'm not seeing anything that's jumping out to me and saying, "Hey, like, why did we do this?" It's the little gotchas that you're calling out that makes sense for us to swap, like the special permit for ZB to planning board. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
just one, but do it in both places.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back through, but I think that might really be the only one that I see. I'll go through. I definitely want to go through it.
Yeah.
Again,
There's a bunch of roads like that where special permit planning board in the C6, but ZB in the other columns.
Yeah.
Example, gasoline and diesel filling, fuel fillings.
And something you might want to prepare is just definitions of what do we mean by light industrial uses and general light industrial.
Yeah, I actually had a comment on that one, but it was in the Google sheet. I added a comment there asking if, let's see, where is it? Wherever it says light industrial, I was asking if that was supposed to be a category or if that was supposed to be one of the uses because it seemed really vague.
Right.
what's that one again? I'm sorry.
Light industrial uses or general light industrial. You have those both called out towards the bottom of the document. And so the ask is, how do we define those? They seem a little bit generic and overreaching.
Okay, so the light industrial uses is just a subcategory in the gray section.
Okay, got it. And then
So,
the
so it's
general
just
light industrial.
that would be a use.
Okay,
So that was again, that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about. Let me just go back to the other comment I made. I guess the question is now.
so I think the request is to define that, right? Like, how do we define that? Let's get that into the definitions because that's something that we're gonna need to have more information on.
Yes, I think so. We have if you see the ones in the middle of the page that are red, those are new.
Yep. And so does that all qualify as general light industrial?
No, that's a broken down category. So we can.
Well,
So the
no,
question is,
that's not the broken down category because you have it as a yes in zone 6.
well, I mean by that. So, for example, the life sciences and biotechnology, that's a use type.
Right. So I think what we're trying to say is that general light industrial doesn't read as a use type, whereas life sciences and biotechnology does.
So you prefer to not have that label as light industrial, you mean?
No, so you have light industrial uses in gray. Directly
Yep.
below that, you have general light industrial with
Gotcha.
yes in the last column.
Yep.
So the ask is, what does general light industrial mean, and how is it different from what's below it?
Gotcha. Okay. So it sounds like you probably would want to see definitions for that one for sure. Does research and development need to be defined? Do you think?
I mean,
I'll
depending,
tell you what. I got a
are they
better idea.
researching and depending how to create nuclear weapons? Like, I don't know that we
Uh,
necessarily want that in Norfolk's backyard.
yeah. So I think it's kind of pointing towards maybe have some definitions for those new uses.
Yeah,
I
we
think
need a little
that's,
bit more specificity.
yeah. I think that was kind of my takeaway from the board's comments. So
And if possible, for review, just put it into an Excel sheet. It's an easy copy paste, and it makes it a lot easier for us to filter through and just pay attention to what needs to be paid attention to.
okay.
We also have to think about what to do with all the blanks, because we can't have blank cells. They either turn into no's or have to be thought about for all the other columns.
Right.
Also, we gotta organize those alphabetically within that new category.
Yes.
All easily done in Excel. Or Google Sheets, either way. But
That actually is in Google Sheets. But we're just downloading it.
oh, got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's in Google Sheets and it was,
So it's
yeah.
easier for us to review it in Sheets. Yeah. All right. So agenda wise, anything else for this, Rich?
Yeah, so like to at least I mean it's kind of hard, there's two of you missing, so I suppose, but the thought of having design guidelines within the district itself versus design review, which is outside it. What I would just as before you answer the question, I'll tell you this. I think design guidelines for the outbuildings that are along Dedham Street may make sense for some of the traditional design standards, but the industrial subdivision side, not so much in terms of building types. So just
I think I hear what you're saying. Um, I agree that anything that you can see from the street needs to kind of adhere to the standard that we've already set for the town from a visibility perspective. What leeway do we have to kind of stray from those guidelines for buildings that are not seen from the frontage?
so I think we would take a stab at putting them within the C6 district for those buildings. So the ones that aren't on the street front, that's probably how it was. At least initially, think we would take care of it.
Okay, so you're saying the C6 district is exempt from the design guidelines, and anything that's off highway would still be required to adhere to the design guidelines, or on highway, I mean. Is that what you're
On
trying?
highway. Yeah. Now, yeah, that's the general concept. Bear in mind, though, we're getting rid of there is no on highway, off highway,
Right.
but that's the yes.
All right, I think we need to
You
look
got to
at,
see it. You got to
yeah,
see
we
it.
gotta look at the zoning maps, see how this, the implication of this, overlay it with what the developer is looking to provide as well, and see what that does from an impact perspective to the aesthetics. Not saying it's gonna, wildly change anything, but I know a lot of hard work has gone into those design guidelines with a certain hope for an aesthetic to be driven throughout this town, and I'd like to respect that as much as possible.
No, understood. Yeah. All right, we'll take a
So,
stab at that. I think
we've got
you,
a
you 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 did answer the other questions essentially. I think define the uses.
yes,
We just talked about design review. Um,
revisit that alternative fueling / electric fueling.
yeah, alternative fueling, electric.
We got
Um,
quite a few things to review come August, and a lot of homework to do between now and then.
yeah. And so I'm just going to throw, this may not be my final answer, okay? But just to give you some consideration, where something would, let me just put it on the board, I'll highlight it and then give you something for consideration. So back to, am I sharing my screen? No.
Yeah.
Well, I think I could talk to you about it. So basically, we saw where age assisted living was ZBA and we're switching to planning board, but yet it's allowed in the C4 district, which would be the ZBA. I think the general purpose of trying to go forward with the zoning changes kind of keep it kind of in that C6 only, not go outside of the district, keep it kind of tight with the overall changes in that way. So
You're saying not push to change it for the C4, but only change it for the C6.
right, and then
So a little pushback. Is there concerns that the zoning board will not approve a special permit in the C6?
no, not that. I'm just trying to think about in terms of keeping the changes as minimal as possible instead. So like when you're trying to package this, we're talking about, all right, well, listen, we're only talking about
Right.
C6. We're not talking about C4, C1. You know what I mean? That
I
kind of
hear
stuff.
you, but I also don't want to get crippled by, not politics, but by what do you call it? Bureaucracy, right? Like this means we have to go back to another town meeting in the future to make the C4 change, right? Don't I don't think that it's not going to confuse people, but I think it will confuse less people if we just package it all together and get it done once, and explain that we're doing this from a point of expedience, right? It's going to help speed things up from a town meeting perspective. It's going to speed things up from a planning board approvals perspective, and it's something that we're doing to kind of reduce friction going forward, right? Yes, we can package this as it's a majority of these are to support the Southwood Hospital Zone that we are, essentially reauthoring in order to support this use case. But we found other areas where we can be opportunistic with our time and capitalize on process improvements.
I mean, it's really just about consistency too, right? Like when I scrolled through that document earlier, that was something that stood out to me immediately. That one said special permit zoning board, the other one said planning board. The consistency, I think, is more important than being able to package it up in the simplest way, although we know anytime we bring a use table to town meeting, it's going to be confusing.
Right. And this is now the third time in a row that we've brought a use table to town meeting. And so I think that the townsfolk are getting more used to it than anything.
Yeah. So what I'll do is at the ZBA meeting next week, I'll update the board in terms of working on making changes to this district. And then as part of that process, the considerations take what would be special permit uses from the ZBA and shift them over to the planning board just to see if
Yeah.
there's any pushback on
And I
that.
Is there
think,
a reason that it would have been with the ZBA? Like when I think about zoning board of appeals, I don't really, like, a lot of our uses don't make sense that they would have gone to the ZBA.
Yeah, that's kind of, I would tell you, it's that local flavor, how you structure your zoning more so than anything. Some ZBAs might be more heavily involved in permitting than other towns and planning board less. I mean, there is not that consistency, unfortunately. So it does have more of a local flair. And then somebody might argue, well, it's, from a permitting, it's kind of cumbersome from an applicant going two different boards, but it's kind of that checks and balance, I guess. But I don't really believe in that camp, so I'm not really a big advocate in that. I think, but
Yeah, I mean, we have two capable boards, I would say, like, however is the simplest for the applicant would be great, because I don't think we kind of over process in general, overburden builders, developers, homeowners. So if we can simplify that, that would be great.
right, especially since, we're stipulating that it could be allowed, right? Like, why force two meetings, weeks in between them, and additional, time and money being spent on that decision being made when we can have it all done once in one of our meetings?
Yeah, either
yeah,
one.
and from a permitting standpoint, you really don't. It's hard to separate use versus site, right? They're
100%.
integrated, and so when it's countless times we're having them integrated, it comes out better in terms of conditions and so forth. So,
So I'd almost implore you, Rich, if there are other opportunities where we could take over that from the zoning board, that we propose that as well. That way we're not stuck in this position where we're piecemealing it as situations come up.
yeah, okay, all right.
Awesome. Any other updates?
Yes, so it is. I have Jack. So let me just say, maybe we wait to have him. So Jack put together an update on the inclusionary bylaw, and has a presentation he was going to present to you. To I'm somewhat thinking maybe we wait to the August meeting when Gary and Chad are here, as opposed to have him do it tonight and then two members aren't here. It's not, we're not talking about zoning changes for the fall either. This is more looking at incentives for the inclusionary bylaw. I'm somewhat more inclined to think that might be a better opportunity for Jack as well to make a presentation and hear
Sure.
from the full board.
And Jack, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd be fine waiting until August. I think getting the opinion of the whole board would be better.
Okay, perfect. I'll defer to your decision. If possible, if there's materials that you want to provide to us beforehand so that we can review it, generate any questions, feel free to have Rich distribute that to us or send that to us. But otherwise, we'll look forward to hearing from you in August.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Now, there's one other zoning change that I'll be presenting to the board, which is an adjustment to the accessory buildings change that we just made in the fall. It's come to my attention that the dimensional table isn't referenced within that section. So the interpretation is that somebody doesn't actually have to go for a special permit to put an accessory building in the front yard. They just set it back the height of the accessory building. And I know that was not the intent of that change. So I'm gonna put some language together for you
Okay,
to
that sounds
review
pretty
it.
straightforward, though.
What's that?
Sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward,
Okay.
but that's it. Zoning wise.
Once you have some language, feel free to send it over.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
Other than that, looking at the agenda, we've got our 2024 meeting schedule. So next one is Thursday, not Tuesday. It's Thursday, August 15th, rescheduled from August 13th. Following that, September 10th, October 8th, November 12th, and December 10th. Looking around, do we have any other unanticipated new business that may come before the board? Anyone on the line have anything they want to discuss?
No, we're just gonna have to reschedule our October 12th, or our November 12th meeting due to town meeting.
Yes, and we will wait till our August meeting to do so since we don't have
Yeah.
that to do it. But
Okay.
duly, anything
That's it
else?
for.
I actually have one more thing. I was asked if we were going to sponsor a bylaw change for accessory dwelling units, not to be confused with accessory buildings, from folks in town. And they said if they needed to, then they could do a citizen's petition. And I was like, I wouldn't, spend your time doing that yet because we've already talked about it several times as a board. I'm just not sure when it's going to be prioritized. So I didn't want those people to go out and get all these signatures if we were going to prioritize it anyway. So I wasn't sure what you guys were thinking about that. Mostly the use case, if you can call it that, would be for parents to have an accessory dwelling unit on the property that somebody already owns. And in all these cases, they're actually very large lots. Haven't had anyone ask me about a small lot yet. So we'd have to, obviously look at that, look at the dimensions, and all of that stuff. And it will be a lot of work. But I think it seems like a worthwhile priority.
Yeah, I know, Rich, you've talked about this several times. Definitely.
Yeah, so I was thinking this is more something targeted for the spring of 25.
Okay.
So
Gotta get it
let's
done
start
before the
work.
World Cup.
What's that?
Gotta get it done before the World Cup.
Yes.
And you gotta get your Airbnb rule done before that one too.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
See how those two go hand in hand?
Yeah, I know. So, yeah. Well, listen, that's kind of a. I think the Airbnb is going to be. Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that. I guess we probably shouldn't, in all kidding aside, talk about that in consideration to that coming up. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I know people. Well, let's see what shakes out, I guess, right? So that's if it's yeah.
What shakes out with what?
Well, what ends up being this accessory dwelling unit? Because
Yeah.
listen, I could see. I'll just say, hey, my mom's living in my accessory dwelling unit, and now I'm decide to. Yeah, she's going on vacation for a few weeks, and now somebody's in the accessory dwelling unit here for the World Cup, that kind of thing. So I mean, that could be a real issue. I don't know. I mean,
It could be, but also it's when you live in the house, unless you're renting out what is normally a primary residence, you're not just going to
well,
let
are
any.
you talking? So let me clarify. You're talking accessory that's attached, not detached. Then is that what you mean?
So attached would typically be an in-law apartment, and then the accessory
Yeah.
dwelling unit is detached, but on the same property. I don't know. I mean, it could not that it couldn't happen. We should certainly think about
Yeah.
all possible, challenges that could come up, and I think that'll probably come out in our research anyway. But yeah, or even just, I think ADUs are pretty trendy now, and you can just go and buy them pre-made. And so I think people are thinking, oh, that would be great. Instead of having to like build onto their homes and have the foundation poured and,
Yeah, 100%. I think what Rich is kind of like leaning towards is what
the
happens in
pushback.
certain areas like Silicon Valley and Mountain View. A lot of people purchase these accessory dwelling units and then they just rent them out under the table and they don't become revenue generating for the town or anything like that. And they become more problematic than anything, especially with regards to like off-street parking, waste, all of these other things. So there's a
Yeah,
lot.
I mean, those are all things that have to be considered in it for sure. I mean, I can't imagine in California though, they also have, it's a statewide bylaw that says that those accessory dwelling units can be 4 feet from a property line. I think we wouldn't do that.
Right.
And so like there are things that we can certainly do and look at best practices from others that have put them in, but put in bylaws in their towns. I'm sure that there are. I mean, you guys know I'm a nerd about that stuff, so I'm sure I
I
can
mean,
find.
Rich, correct me if I'm wrong, but by right now we do that by special permit, right? Like,
No, not
No,
allowed.
no, no, it's not allowed at all.
You're not even allowed to live in a camper while your house is being renovated in Norfolk.
well, you are, but not for longer than the period of a year.
No, 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 no. If your house catches on fire, then yes.
That's what I'm referring to then. Okay.
Yes, but not if you proactively, if you just want to remodel your home and you don't want your children to breathe in asbestos, too bad. You have to go rent a hotel. So like even stuff like that really needs to be worked on. But I think like all of those things are, not unique to Norfolk. I mean, we're certainly not a
No.
vacation destination, but yeah, I mean, we'll have to think through all of those possible challenges.
Yeah.
But I do think it's less of a challenge when you're living in your home with your children, you're not just going to rent out your backyard that they play in to just anyone. I would
Yeah,
like to
well,
think. I don't
it's
know.
Well,
times we're living in.
yeah, well, I will tell you, we did have, kind of the worst case scenario where somebody was renting out the house as an Airbnb and renting out their pool as a pool rental. So we got both.
Really? Was it on that pool app?
It
There's a pool
was,
app. Yeah.
yes, yeah. I won't, they're probably, if I went on, there's probably a pool or two right now that's still out there, but this kind of this scenario was twofold, it was, yeah.
That's a tricky one, but I would be willing to bet that's an edge case, at least in Norfolk. But I mean, we have to plan for all scenarios, so we should.
No, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like there was a couple of towns that have already kind of dealt with the ADU issue. I remember when I was clerk, there seeing notices from other towns for special meetings for those.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Franklin has it.
Yep, and Rentham has one. I haven't looked recently, but I was looking for one of my clients about a year ago, and they had a bylaw specific to in-law apartments and very specific requirements about having the in-law apartment attached to the house, and there had to be a door going into the house, and had to be a family member. And I'm not really sure how you could possibly enforce that, but
Yeah.
But to answer your question, is on the to-do list.
okay.
Just not for November, but
Yeah, no, I didn't think that we'd have it ready for November, but I just wanted to save them the trouble of doing the citizens petition if we were going to prioritize it anyway.
yeah, makes sense.
Awesome. All right. Any other business?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Then I would like to thank everyone who stood with us throughout this entire call. Mr. Buckley, Mr. Cannon, Jack, obviously, DLJ, Sue Jacobson. Always nice to have you on. Then I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second? All right. Roll call vote. Eric,
Aye.
Melissa.
Aye.
All right. And the chair votes aye. I mean, the vice chair votes aye. Chris Montfort here. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
Cheers.